When you eat that sushi, have you ever thought that you could be poisoning yourself with every bite of fish? Some seafood is packed with mercury, industrial chemicals, and hidden toxins that build up in your body over time. And even if you pick the right fish, cooking it the wrong way can make things way worse, turning a healthy meal into a toxic trap. But what if you fall into this toxic trap? It could lead to brain fog, fatigue, and even long-term health risks. However, there are safe options, and that's exactly the purpose of this video, to let you know what the best fish alternatives are, and what type of cooking mistakes you should stop making. 7 worst fish to eat, and why you should avoid them. Number 1. Tilefish, the highest mercury fish. Ever heard of tilefish? If not, that's a good thing. This fish might look all fancy on a menu or in a seafood shop, but behind that innocent face hides one of the most dangerous fishes you can put on your plate. The reason is mercury. Tilefish has one of the highest mercury levels among all seafood, with a shocking 1.45 parts per million, ppm. Now, if you're wondering why that's a big deal, mercury is basically poison for your brain. Eating too much mercury-loaded fish can mess up your nervous system, cause memory problems, and affect your thinking or learning. But the worst part, it's especially risky for pregnant women because mercury can seriously harm the baby's brain development. That means your child could also struggle with learning or memory problems even before they take their first steps. And here's the kicker, tilefish doesn't even taste that special to risk all these problems. It's just another white fish that could easily be swapped for something healthier and tastier. So, if you're craving seafood without the side of poison, wild-caught salmon or Atlantic mackerel are way better options. They're not only low in mercury, but packed with good stuff like omega-3s that boost your brain instead of frying it. Number 2. King mackerel, a mercury risk to your brain and heart. The same is applicable for the king mackerel too, due to extremely high mercury levels. Mercury is a toxic metal that builds up in certain fish, especially big fish that live longer. Once it gets into your body, mercury messes with your brain, heart, and overall health. And the worst part? Your body takes months or even years to flush it out completely. King mackerel has a rich, firm texture with a bold, slightly oily flavor. Its taste is savory and meaty, perfect for grilling or smoking. That's why it's quite popular among fish lovers. But the FDA has straight up warned pregnant women, kids under 16, and even those planning to have a baby to avoid king mackerel completely. Even for adults, high mercury exposure has been linked to memory loss, anxiety, and heart disease. But here's the good news, you don't have to give up fish altogether. A much healthier and safer swap is sardines. They're tiny, low in mercury, and loaded with omega-3 fatty acids, the kind of healthy fats that boost brain power, keep your heart healthy, and even make your skin glow. Number 3. Farmed tilapia. Worse than a fast food burger? Then there's a very popular fish that might be doing more harm to your body than a greasy fast food burger. And many of you already eat that fish almost on a daily basis. We're talking about farmed tilapia, one of the most common and cheapest fish out there. On paper, fish is supposed to be loaded with omega-3, those healthy fats that keep your heart, brain, and body running like a well-oiled machine. But here's the catch, tilapia is shockingly low in omega-3. What's worse, it's packed with omega-6 fats, the type of fat that triggers inflammation in your body. Too much of it can mess up your heart health, boost cholesterol, and even worsen joint pain or skin problems. But that's not the only shady part. Most farmed tilapia are raised in overcrowded fish farms, where the water is often dirty and filled with chemicals. To keep diseases away, farmers pump them with antibiotics and pesticides, the same kind used in agriculture. And guess where all those chemicals end up? Right in the fish you're eating. So if you're trying to eat healthy, tilapia is probably the last fish you should be adding to your plate. Instead, go for wild-caught trout or barramundi. Both are rich in healthy fats and clean protein and actually good for your body. Number 4. Atlantic farmed salmon, a hidden chemical cocktail. Now imagine you're at a restaurant scanning the menu and you spot salmon. Sounds healthy, right? That rich pink fish that everyone calls a superfood. But not all salmon is the same. And one type could secretly be one of the worst fish you could ever put on your plate. We're talking about Atlantic farmed salmon, the kind that's raised in huge underwater farms instead of swimming free in the wild. On the outside, it looks just like the expensive, healthy salmon you're supposed to eat. But here's the dark secret. That perfect pink color? It's fake. Farmed salmon are actually grayish because they're fed processed food pellets instead of their natural diet. To make them look like their wild cousins, they're dyed pink using artificial chemicals. Yup, like coloring your hair, but for fish. And that's not even the worst part. These fish are loaded with PCBs, polychlorinated biphenyls, nasty chemicals that were banned decades ago because they're linked to cancer, hormone problems, and messing up your body from the inside out. These chemicals still linger in the environment, and farmed salmon soak them up like a sponge through their food. The problem is, fish farming might sound like a sustainable idea, but it's more like a watery factory where fish swim around in cramped, dirty cages, making them weaker, sicker, and full of antibiotics and pesticides just to keep them alive. So, what's the smarter choice? Go for wild-caught Pacific salmon. These fish live free in clean waters, eat their natural diet, and pack way more nutrients without all the chemical junk. It might cost a little extra, but you're paying for the real deal. Not a pink-painted chemical cocktail. Number 5. Imported catfish. A chemical-filled fish. The worst fish you can put on your plate is imported catfish. It's popular mainly because it has a mild, slightly sweet flavor with a soft, flaky texture. Its taste is clean and less fishy, especially when fresh. Most of the catfish are imported from countries like Vietnam and China, and they are raised in filthy, polluted waters. The kind of places where you'd never want your food to come from. But that's not even the worst part. To keep these fish alive in such dirty conditions, they're often pumped with illegal antibiotics and chemicals that are banned in many countries, including the US. Imagine eating fish that's been swimming in water filled with bacteria, chemicals, and waste. Would you still love to eat it? The imported catfish can contain traces of antibiotics like ciprofloxacin and enrofloxacin, which are the medicines doctors give humans for serious infections. So, consuming these chemicals through food regularly can mess with your body and even make antibiotics less effective when you actually need them to fight infections. If you're a fan of catfish, don't worry. Not all catfish are bad. US farmed catfish are raised under much stricter guidelines and are a much safer option. Or if you want to play it even safer, switch to cod, a cleaner, healthier fish that's just as tasty. Number 6. Orange ruffy, a mercury-loaded deep-sea fish. The next worst fish choice is orange ruffy. If you don't know about it, it's a white, mild-tasting fish that many people love. But here's the catch. This fish can live up to 150 years. That means it spends more than a century in the deep sea, absorbing mercury and other toxins like a sponge. The longer a fish lives, the more mercury builds up in its body. And when you eat it, that mercury ends up in your body. Now just imagine a 150-year-old orange ruffy that has accumulated an unthinkably huge amount of mercury in its body, and you are now eating it. It's similar to a cup of drinking poison, and it's not just bad for you, it's bad for the ocean too. Orange ruffy is massively overfished, and since it takes decades to grow and reproduce, their populations can't recover quickly. Eating this fish means contributing to the decline of a species that's already in trouble. Rather, if you love whitefish, go for haddock or halibut instead. They have a much lower mercury content, taste just as good, and don't harm the environment as much. Number 7. Swordfish. The most dangerous mercury fish. And finally, we will talk about the swordfish. By now you have already understood that all these fish are dangerous and poisonous, not underwater, but on your plate, because of extremely high levels of mercury in their bodies. Swordfish is basically swimming in the stuff, with mercury levels so high, 1.00 ppm, that even the FDA straight up warns pregnant women and kids to avoid it completely. But honestly, everyone should think twice. If you eat swordfish regularly, you could be slowly poisoning yourself without even realizing it. Much like what chain smoking does to your body, or regular consumption of French fries can do. But why swordfish is so bad? Because swordfish are huge and live for a long time, they absorb more mercury from the ocean than smaller fish. Just one serving can contain enough mercury to mess with your body's normal functioning. So, what can you do now? Simple. Ditch the swordfish. Instead, go for Arctic char, or wild-caught Alaskan pollock. They're delicious, way safer, and still packed with all the good stuff you actually want from fish. like omega-3s and protein, without the nasty side effects. 3 worst cooking methods that increase toxins in fish. Number 1. Deep frying fish in vegetable oils. But suppose after listening to this video, you completely stopped eating those 7 fishes and shifted to healthy alternatives. Do you think you will be 100% alright? No. Because there's one simple mistake in the kitchen that could turn even those superfood into a toxic mess that actually harms your body instead of helping it. You know, deep frying fish in vegetable oil is one of the worst things you can do. Why? Because high heat and the wrong oils destroy the very nutrients that make fish so good for you. The omega-3s you want? They break down into harmful compounds when exposed to extreme temperatures. And that golden, crispy crust? It's loaded with acrylamides, dangerous chemicals linked to cancer. This isn't some rare mistake. Deep fried fish is everywhere. From fast food chains to fancy seafood restaurants, it's one of the most common ways people eat fish. And let's not forget homemade fish fries. The problem? The vegetable oils used for frying, like soybean, corn, and sunflower oil, aren't stable under high heat. They break down, forming trans fats and harmful oxidized oils that can cause inflammation, clog arteries, and increase the risk of heart disease. So, how do you avoid this health disaster? Instead of frying, go for baking, grilling, or steaming. Cooking fish at lower temperatures preserves the omega-3s and keeps dangerous toxins from forming. And if you must fry, use stable fats like coconut oil or ghee, which don't degrade as easily. Number 2. Grilling over high heat, especially fatty fish like salmon. Grilling fish over high heat is also a big no-no. Especially grilling fatty ones like salmon or mackerel is way more harmful than most people realize. People do this method because it's easy, tasty, and feels like the healthiest choice. But that's not right. When fish fat drips onto the flames or hot grill, it creates invisible chemicals called PAHs, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, that rise back up and coat the fish. These compounds are straight up linked to cancer. Then there's HCAs, heterocyclic amines, another group of toxins formed when fish is exposed to extreme heat. Both of these nasties are proven to mess with your DNA, which is exactly how cancer starts. Does that mean no more grilled fish ever? Not exactly. You can still enjoy fish without the hidden health risks. Go for gentler cooking methods like steaming, baking, or pan-searing on low heat. If you're a die-hard grilling fan, marinate your fish with lemon, garlic, or herbs before cooking. It cuts down those nasty toxins by almost 90%. Number 3. Cooking farmed fish without trimming the fat. Any type of farmed fish, like salmon, tilapia, and catfish, is loaded with toxic chemicals. Why? Because they're raised in crowded, polluted waters and fed an unnatural diet. Their bodies absorb nasty industrial pollutants like PCBs, polychlorinated biphenyls, and dioxins, which don't just disappear. These toxins build up in their fat, waiting for you to take a bite. Now the worst mistake? Cooking them without trimming the fat. Most people don't even think about this. They just cook the fish whole, grill it, fry it, or bake it, assuming they're making a healthy choice. But that's exactly how the toxins stay in your meal, making their way straight into your body. And these toxins aren't just bad, they're really bad. PCBs have been linked to cancer, brain damage, and hormone disruptions. Dioxins? They can mess with your immune system, cause reproductive issues, and even speed up aging. What's worse? These chemicals stay in your body for years. Yes, years. Your body doesn't flush them out easily, meaning every time you eat poorly prepared farmed fish, you're just adding to the toxic pile inside you. So what's the fix? Simple. Always trim off the fatty parts of the fish before cooking. Avoid frying, since it locks in fat. Opt for grilling, broiling, or poaching, and let that excess fat drip away. Even better? Go for wild-caught fish whenever possible. It has way fewer toxins. Your fish dinner doesn't have to be a slow-acting poison. A little care in the kitchen can mean a huge difference in your health. Best cooking methods for safer fish. You know what? Fish has always been one of the healthiest foods out there, but how you cook it can make or break its benefits. Grilling or frying might taste bomb, but they can crank up harmful toxins like mercury and cancer-causing chemicals without you even knowing. The safest ways to cook fish: steaming, baking, or poaching. These methods keep all the good stuff, like omega-3s, intact while cutting down on nasty toxins. Here's a hack that not many people know. Marinating fish in lemon juice or vinegar before cooking can seriously lower harmful chemicals like heterocyclic amines, the bad guys linked to cancer. A simple 30-minute soak can reduce these toxins by up to 90%. Plus, that tangy marinade makes the fish taste even better. Another underrated trick is to avoid charring or blackening the fish. Those burnt bits may look crispy, but are loaded with cancer-linked compounds. Suppose you never smoked a cigarette in life, but you eat that crispy charred fish pretty often. You get the same effect in your body. So, stick to low heat and gentle cooking to keep your fish both tasty and toxin-free. Safe and healthy fish alternatives you should eat instead. Lastly, remember that not all fish are made equal when it comes to health. While some swim around loaded with toxins like mercury, others are like little underwater superfoods. For example, sardines might not be everyone's first pick, but these tiny fish pack more omega-3 than most fancy fillets, and with almost zero mercury. Anchovies follow close behind, giving your brain and heart a boost without any hidden nasties. Wild-caught Alaskan salmon is the VIP of the fish world. Unlike its farmed cousins, it's leaner, cleaner, and way richer in nutrients. Ever heard of Arctic char? It's like salmon's lesser-known sibling, equally delicious but with fewer pollutants. Then there's US-caught haddock, light, flaky, and one of the most sustainable options out there. The best part? These fish aren't just better for you, they're better for the planet too. While bigger fish soak up more toxins the longer they live, these smaller, fast-growing swimmers stay clean and packed with goodness. Eating the right fish isn't just about avoiding the bad stuff. It's about unlocking some of nature's most powerful health secrets, one bite at a time. So, did any of these fish surprise you? What's your go-to safe fish? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more health and nutrition tips.